So we're seeing investors' reaction here to these numbers. Andre, what's your reaction?
Well, I think that the first thing that I think everybody needs to realize is that Netflix used to be a utility. It's now a commodity. 5 years ago, if you had a smart TV or a streaming device, the first option, in many instances, the only option to really have wide scale availability to content was Netflix. Now they have increased competition, not only from the Disneys and the Amazons and others, but the real growth over the last year in streaming, particularly in the US and Europe, has been free ad-supported streaming solutions that, in the United States reach over 80 million homes. And so that's, I think, that the most difficult thing about Netflix's situation right now.
So let's talk about Netflix's ability to stay ahead in the content race. Obviously, they've had big hits like Squid Game. Given that even Netflix is acknowledging more competition in streaming, what do you think the chances are they can continue to stay ahead?
I think they're very slim, and it's for a few reasons, right? So even though Netflix has outspent almost everybody over the last 5 or 6 years in terms of content production, they're now competing against the likes of Disney, who have 100 years of content built up and the ability to renew and do other things with their content. But even more importantly than that is that Netflix still has only one real touch point with the consumer. 3, 4, 5 years ago, everybody was jealous of Netflix's data advantage. They had all this insight in terms of what was popular, so they could license content better than other people. They could produce content better than other people. Now, I would argue that Netflix is actually at a significant data disadvantage against the Amazons and the Apples and the Googles and the Disneys of the world that understand e-commerce. They understand how people leverage different devices, how they stream audio, much more gaming information. And so I think it's going to be difficult for Netflix, which is really more just a content production and distribution company, to kind of compete against these more diversified media companies.
Meantime, HBO Max has been one of the top downloaded apps according to Apptopia, and I didn't realize this, but the Sex and the City reboot is a main driver of that, despite some of the publicity along with Euphoria. Do you think original programming on HBO has a leg up because it's HBO?
I think I would have been more likely to say that a few years ago when they had Game of Thrones and other mega titles. HBO obviously has good content, and it's something that they do well. I think HBO Max and others have also proved that you can be successful still with having the release window in theaters as well as on streaming. Disney's also seen some success with that. I don't think that the challenge is going to come from one competitor. Netflix's concern isn't specifically that Disney is going to have better content than it. I think that's highly possible, but I think it's the sheer onslaught of the consumer having so many options. And so even if you took at it outside of streaming, in any business, if you have increased competition, and that competition in many respects can have cheaper prices than you, or even offer goods and services for free, or offer more goods and services to your consumer, it's going to be very challenging for your business.
Meantime, Netflix, of course, is getting into gaming. Some analysts are saying that could be a huge driver of future growth. We're hearing so much about the metaverse. Is Netflix really prepared to compete there?
No, no. So, I think I was one of the first people to say, 4 years ago that Netflix really needed to getting to gaming. I've been saying it over and over and over again, and it was and it was definitely the right move to do so. I think the concern is how slow they're moving with already being behind. One of the things that Netflix benefited from was being the first mover. At pretty much everything they've been successful at, they've had a first mover advantage in terms of streaming domestically, international distribution, producing originals specifically for streaming. But lately, they've kind of been late to the party. And so, you can't be years behind Microsoft and Sony and Amazon and Google and invest less money than they're investing and think just because you have a large subscriber base that you're going to be able to catch up and compete.